this time it'll work. There we go. Now it's working. Don't know what the fuck is up with OBS being a pain in the ass every time I try to do stuff like this. But for some reason, I had to create a whole other instance of an audio input capture. Even though it's already saved on there, under this microphone. Whatever. Hello, anybody who watches this presently or in the future, or if you're able to, in the past. This is issue 2 of the Custodians Agents of C.R.O.S.S, which asks the all-important question, what if the only superheroes that can save the world were an intelligent baboon, a four-armed werewolf, the world's smartest man with the power of elasticity only in his right arm, and a teenage girl who can control fire? World might be in for a harrowing experience if they're the only guys you got. Here, this is a 60-page comic created entirely by myself. Everything you see in here was written, illustrated, colored, everything put together by myself. All these fake advertisements I created. This is my baby that I've been working on for nearly 10 years now at varying points. And it is available for as little as $3 on my Patreon. Check the description. I have serialized every page, everything from issue 1 is posted on there, and you can get access to it. I also have, if I can find them, where are they? My first comic series, Destructo Boy. The first 2 issues are called The Era of Alpha Cardinal. The second 2 issues are The Eclipse of Googleplex. And the final issue, which is like the fan favorite, everybody really digs this one, is Grimlax the Astro Knight. These are available for purchase at my Etsy shop, also in the description below. But you can also find the pages serialized and posted on my Patreon, just like the Custodians, all on there. I think I'm on one of the Googleplex issues currently. But check those out. They are fun for the whole family, just zany sci-fi silliness. Getting as many ideas as I possibly can into these about 20-25 page books. I think Grimlax goes a little longer. This is around 30 pages. It's thicker. But those have nothing to say on the 6 issues of the Custodians right here. As you can see, this is pretty much a trade paperback. This is a graphic novel, baby. And these are single issues. And right here, although it may not look much, let me fold it over onto its side. I got the board right here that I used to divide up all the pages. Oh my goodness, that right here is a 1 issue of the Custodians Agents of C.R.O.S.S. This is about 50-something pages of a book, because if I'm making a comic, I'm making it worth the $15 it costs to get. That's right, for only $15 you're going to be able to buy over 50 pages of pure comics. Way better deal than anything you'll find from Marvel or DC, I'll tell you that. But, anyway, I really need to get around to inking these pages. I've had this sitting here. I really should have put a date, but I did not. This was sometime early last year, I think, 2023, is when I was putting this together. I am about to finish issue 5, and then I'll be started on issue 6, which hopefully will go by fairly quickly. It's a more simpler in terms of like visuals of what I'm going to be doing. Don't want to give too much away. But I figured it would be fun to live stream my process and just get this inking done and out of the way and make some fun videos where people can follow along. So here is the issue 3. This is the 3rd issue. I'm currently working on issue 2. I'm coloring it and everything. I have it all scanned in, so I got to color and letter it, and then it'll be ready. But yeah, let's get right into it. If you have any questions regarding how this is going to be published or anything like that, let me know in the comments. But yeah, here we go. So, what I use to ink, most people who do this, I don't know. I think more younger people will probably be using pens, markers. If you really want to go old school, which will probably be offensive to the age of some comic book creators nowadays, you use a pen and pen and quill. I was about to say a croquill, whatever. Where you dip it in the ink and you fucking go like that. It's like a fountain pen almost, in a way. But I can't do that. I hate that. It doesn't work for me. So I do micron pens. Microns. Pigma microns. Not sponsored, but I will accept one. These are ridiculously expensive if you buy them online, or if you buy them in the store, so buy them online. I'm also going to be using this fancy little brush pen to fill in some blacks. I also use a jumbo Pit Artist pen big brush Faber-Castell, really thick brush. And this is a newer one that's very similar to another brand I use by Kurotake. It's in the bag still. These are fun little things. This is really nice. This is a mangaka flexible water-based pigment little pen. So as you can see, I'll be using this probably. And here's everything else. This is how I store all of my inking supplies. Is in this giant Ziploc bag that it's broken, so it doesn't really close very well. But I'll be dipping into here every now and then. I'll need to get out my whiteout. Hopefully this is still working. Gotta shake it up a little bit. This I started using after I saw Jim Lee doing it on his live streams. Yes, hey, Albino Jackal and Michael Saunders. Yeah, I'm back after technical difficulties. Welcome back. Speaking of which, I should bring up another screen on my other monitor so I can also see. Let's see here. Also, I just realized, where's the chat? There it is. So I'm just shaking this up because if you leave it stagnated for a while, it gets all wet, and it doesn't really work well if you're trying to white out anything with it. Wish I had something to white out on. Here's some other tools. These are all, you know, just little markers to follow. Can't think of what the proper term is. And then inside this fancy little white box are French curves. French curves. Don't know why they're called that, but that's what they're called. So those are everything I'll be using. There's something I can test this whiteout on. What is this? I use this Logitech fucking manual thing. I lost it. Where'd it go? I'm very disorganized when I'm working. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So as you can see, it comes out nice and not exactly thick, but very malleable. So I'm just going to wipe that out. Hope I don't need this in Portuguese. So that's working. That's good to know, because I haven't really used one in a while. Haven't been inking much aside from a couple of like one-off things here and there. So let's get right into it. I'm going to start left to right, probably because I am right-handed. Let me just test this. It's working fairly well. I'll wipe that out. Alright, so got my characters right here. These, this issue, if it focuses, hopefully. Hello. There we go. This issue, it has to deal with the Custodians crossing over with the Infinitum Brood, who are these this colorful cast of young teenagers who have special powers and reside at a school in the wilderness. OC, please don't steal. But this is meant, it's going to look similar to like a yearbook, so it has all the characters in their quotes. We have the Neuronaut, Mitch, the Galata Baboon, Kelly, aka Igniter, even though she and Quad Howler over here, aka Charlie, are never fucking called that in the book. I just had to come up with some sort of gimmicky name. They're meeting up with Metalliton, Redo, the Displaced Girl, and Osmium Man. And then underneath, they all have varying quotes that I'll put in there when I'm putting the pages together. So yeah, there are my pencils. I'm looking back on these pages, and I'm just so upset with my lack of art skill, I suppose, that I had at this time. Because I'm drawing pretty much about 6 to 8 hours every day for the past year, so I've come a long way compared to this. I'm using a lot more photo reference in places just to make sure that I'm doing looks well. But here we go. And you'll notice I have a very interesting, not as interesting as the way Eric Larson holds his fucking pens, but I'm going to try inking like this because I find that penciling the roughs and everything, it just works really well when I'm holding it like this. So I'm going to see how the inking goes because I haven't really done that. I don't really like it for some things. But inking in that way really, or not inking, penciling and holding the pen like this, I don't know. It just really works well. It helps you keep it loose. There's a great Neil Adams video on YouTube where he is like doing a class. It was from like 4 years ago. A class of like for art students. And he's talking about how when you're drawing, you really want it to come from the shoulder, not the like with the wrist. Something he was inspired by, like how Japanese artists work or something is what he's saying. And when I'm working like this, like it's such a more like almost freeing, flowing position for my hand. But that is usually just when I'm penciling. And as you can see, inking is just tracing. That's right, you can quote me on that. You're just a bunch of tracers if you're an inker. And I will get into a fight with you at a comic convention. So I already need a little circle right here. So let's find one that's suitable. Let's see. What am I doing? I need a slightly thicker brush. Yes, it is time to hero up, says the albino Jekyll. These are not the best heroes, but they're the ones that you're stuck with. So let's see. Let me make the little symbol of cross. I'm going to go a little smaller. Yeah, it's a bit thick, but no one's going to really pay attention to this. You got to know what to really put in time to and what is just, oh, that looks good enough. That's the problem with, I think, a lot of comic creators nowadays is that, you know, back in the day when, you know, you're a comic creator and you're fucking trying to go month to month or else you don't get a goddamn paycheck, not all the panels are going to look great. There's going to be some drawings here and there where you're just like, that's the best it's going to be. I got 13 more panels to get done. Or 13 more pages. Ooh, that was a thick line I did not mean to use. But nowadays, and I've found myself doing this too, because I got a little cheap tablet to color, because there's a very specific artist that I'm going to try and emulate in a certain section of the series, who's all digital. So I can't really do it very well coloring or drawing wise. I could probably emulate it all right, just by pen, but the coloring is not going to be able to do so with a mouse. But I've also noticed that, you know, doing this whole book right here, I colored everything with my pen, or with my mouse, my computer mouse and keyboard. So now I'm using this tablet to color, and I'm using the tablet and keyboard and a little bit of the mouse here and there, because I'm going for that very specific 60s, 70s style where, here's another tangent. The way that the comics used to be colored, you didn't have to have any special fucking training. You could just go on in there, apply for the position, and then bam, you're a comic colorist. So someone would do the color guide. So someone would get this page, mix together the paints, the dyes, whatever, and do it on a copy page. Okay, so that's this shade of red, blah, 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 you know. And then they would make the guides so that the colorists, or the comic color, whatever, could really follow along in the mass production scale of it. But the way that would then work is that there were pages of acetate that would go over the pages. And that's what would be colored on, sort of like cell coloring for old animations. That was not, like I said, a very specified gig. You didn't really have to know much other than how to mix the colors together to get to what you needed. So you would also get like a pay incentive depending on how many pages you get done. So you can kind of see where I'm going with saying that the pages, any mistakes really were just sort of glanced over. Which would lead you to things... I'm trying to find a good example of it that's kind of noticeable. Maybe here. So you can kind of see in the middle panels, these 3 panels right here, the purple, you can kind of see how there's a little bit of like overlay. It's probably not the best. Oh, here you go, right down here. So you see that overlay going over the black? That's because I use a very specific style. This is a black scan of actual blacks on an old comic book page. But anyway, the color would lay over top of the black areas because they just didn't care. You don't need to perfectly cut it out in those old comics. You just splatter oval, and then there you fucking go. You move on to the next section. So you just keep going. So that's the very specific art style I'm going for. I don't remember how I got onto that, but there we are. Maybe I'll remember. Maybe someone will be able to remind me. The Albino Jackal says, now that the internet exists, Craig Land has more reference materials for faces of women he draws. Oh, man, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about the tablets and everything. So I'm coloring with a tablet. This, like, little tablet about this big. Which is insane, because I have a Wacom tablet. Like, 10 years ago, I got the Wacom Intuos 4. And this was like, oh, that's the top line, company, this and that, blah, blah, blah. That fucking thing never worked, even when it did work. It was clunky. It was huge. It was like one of the big-ass ones, too. It was nice, but, like, it barely came with anything. You have to buy, like, the pen nibs separately from the actual product. This little $40 tablet I got, it's the tablet, it's the pens, it's the pen holder, it's all the extra nibs, all for $40, and I'm like, oh my god, society has progressed. But as I'm working on these pages, let me try and get it focused. What happened? I noticed myself going a little too slow and a little too methodically, and I don't want to do that because, like I said, with the coloring style that I'm trying to achieve of that fast, I got to get this done by lunch break, or else I won't get that bonus, cash, because I'll have too many pages. I don't want to do that. I keep, like, having to smack myself on the wrist, like, no, stop, you got to keep going. No one's going to notice this. It'll be fine if it's outside the lines. That's what you're trying to do. Damn it. But yeah, that's my current predicament. His eyebrow's a little iffy. I don't know. Do I like that? Do I? He's kind of making a face. Yeah, it's a quizzical face. That works for what he's up, like they're up to in this story. So, real quick. Just get it done and get it going. And that's what I was saying before about, a lot of stuff now. Is like, well, I'm not going to say there's delays now, because there's always fucking been delays in comics. But it's a perfectionism that has been derived from the technology that is available. If you can make it perfect, you're gonna want to make it perfect. Which, thankfully, I'm not really falling into the trap of. My biggest issue is just time. Because I did, I have these printed. I printed out a handful of these at the beginning of the year, last year, to get those out. Or was it the beginning of the year? I don't fucking remember. And then nothing. The second issue still hasn't come out. I'm hoping to... What I want to do, what I am doing, is getting ahead of the curve. So once I get issue 2 up, I think I'm going to start posting pages on the Patreon, try and get some interest there. I'll post, bits and pieces on social media. And then I got some ideas in mind on re-releasing the first issue, you know, and then after that, beginning with each issue following. 6 months, hopefully, is how long it'll take to get these 6 issues out. I want to get it out monthly, just to get it over with. And this first issue, if anybody watching this ever did purchase it, that initial print run, it is going to be slightly different. Not very different. I did make some George Lucasian minor alterations between, like, just some stuff that I noticed afterward that I hated. Like, I'll give you an example. This is something I'm really embarrassed about. So hopefully no one ever brings this up to me. And is this page right here, specifically Nuclear Head and Eclectic Blue. Look how fucking long his legs are. What, did Rob Liefeld draw this? That's because I messed up the pages of this first one, made them not the right size, so in Photoshop I did this very quickly. And I was also doing these pages on my old computer, which could not handle the workload of these pages, and I kept having to restart it and stop it, and oh my god, it was ridiculous. So I made changes like that. Stuff that needed to be fixed, nothing really big. There's a panel that I didn't realize where Charlie's irises weren't colored in the proper red color, so I went and did that. I need to pick this up, because I wanted to do about 2 hours of just working on here, and I'm just fucking jabbering. I'm just jabbering my gab. And I got other stuff I gotta work on, too. So I need to hurry up. I need to stop sitting here talking about the old days that I never experienced and make like Jack Kirby and fucking just get to work. Hello, Rocket Cat. Thank you, everybody, for checking it out. And you see, the nice thing about this is that I don't have to worry about going over the lines of the panels, because I can just fix that in Photoshop. That's why all of these pages, and I now pretty much only draw in blue line, unless it's like at a convention where I'm just doing a quick sketch here and there. Wish I got something to put under my hand. Blue line, when you scan it in, it's not going to get picked up. Well, it will get picked up initially if you're scanning in in the color mode, which you should be. But once you go into Photoshop, you can just get rid of that completely and just keep the blacks available. So the blue, you just turn the values down, and then it's just the inks. And oh my god, does that save so much fucking time. I don't like how thick her bangs are coming out. Get the little fine details of her face. I don't know why I made her eyebrows so thin in this. They don't really look like that anywhere else. Ooh, coming. Kind of made her face a little long now I'm looking at it. Does that look? No, it doesn't look right. Yeah, I'm gonna be probably fixing a couple things that just really bug me. Although I suppose I could have just inked that and then fixed it in Photoshop. But oh well. Let's see. So Kelly, her top lip is black, which makes it easy to find where to put the rest of her mouth. Just crink it up a little bit like she's smiling, smirking on one side, and just fill in the bottom lip. So I lost track of what I was doing there. That's gonna bug me. Yeah, that looks fine. It's just the cover of the comic, right? Let's see. There you go. There's her face. And now that I'm done with her little face... Ugh, page. Boom. Boom, just go real quick on the clothes. Clothes are wrinkly, people. You don't really have to be too cautious when you're doing clothes. And that's something that you'll notice about my superheroes, is that they actually wear clothes that aren't skin tight. Neuronaut, which is his name right here, he wears a fucking red jumpsuit. I think the tightest outfits that we probably get are these two down here. Because they're just like, you know, the classic bodysuits. And then a couple of the other superheroes that show up in like the ancillary material. Here we go, I'll show you. If I can find, who's this? No, that's Dyson. She's definitely not skin tight. Here you go, you can't really... So this page right here, all of these fake comic covers for all these superheroes that I created, these were all on an 11 by 17 pieces of paper, which is as big as this. And then look at how small they came out for all of that. I post high resolution images of all of these. I'm going through them on my Patreon as well, with very in-depth and detailed descriptions of the issues. But, like, I don't know, I can't really think of anybody who has a very form-fitting tight suit. Maybe a couple of the Sentinels of the Earth. Just do her hair. Something I really love about Kelly is her hair. Since the inception of the character nearly 10 years ago, probably a little less than that, she's always had pure white hair. And the nice thing about doing this retro style is that, I've said it before a couple times, you can use white as a color. So, let me see. Let me just get that close-up image over. So as you can see, look at how bright her eyes and hair pop out compared to everything else, because I lay down a 10% yellow on the bottom, and then I put a fake, or not a fake, I put a scanned, old-aged page over top and just cut out the white. So her hair is just, does not obey the laws of any physics or any reality. It's just pure white eyes and hair. Is she an albino? Who's to say? But you can say this. She has fire powers. She's also ice cold and freezing to the touch. Just a little rogue aspect thrown in there. And then, of course, Charlie, four-armed werewolf. Don't really know why I did the four arms. I just thought it was neat. Werewolves are cool. People like werewolves. People like arms, I guess. And her look is... I think I talked about this. If you go to my Patreon, like how I said earlier, I post the pages of the first issue on there. Okay, this is going to be interesting because I haven't inked her face since this first issue. And I didn't really like how it came out, so I'm going to see how I did it. I post annotations alongside all the pages that I'm posting. Like at a time, I'll do 3 to 4 pages in each post you can find on there. Yeah, it's just her, I guess, whiskers? I don't know what you'd call these hairs on the sides of her chin. Jaw, I suppose. They're too stringy, I think, in this first issue. Fuck, of course, now that I'm looking for her, I can't fucking find her. There we go. So that's like a bit too stringy for what I think looks good. I think I need to add a little more volume to her. Wish I hadn't drawn her fucking jawline yet, now that I'm talking about this. Jesus. You gotta be really careful if you're whiten out and you plan on going over it, especially with this, you really gotta dab it on and really flatten it out. But not too much, because then it won't even go over anything. Let's see. Alright, let's try this now. Let's make that a bunch like there. You know, I'm sure most of the time the camera's fairly far from her. I guess mutton chops, sideburns is what you'd probably describe these as. I don't know. So I'll probably just go back to sort of a similar vibe of how they look in the first issue, just when the camera's pulled back. But if when I get close, she's in a big splash page at the end of the book. It'll be a little more detailed. You always got to be more detailed for the covers. The Albino Jackal says, fun fact, I once ate soap when I was 4 because I thought it was sugar. I almost, at a fancy restaurant when I was a child, because I'm Richie Rich, I almost ate the little metal tin bowl of butter that they serve with whatever, like your meal or something, because I thought it was ice cream. And then she has this little thing I decided on where it's just thick, slanted black lines that just obscure the section of where her ears kind of meet her head. And she's like very, like almost raccoon eyes. I don't know, do you guys remember that trend from the 2000s where girls would have raccoon eyes? By raccoon eyes, I mean women would literally put mascara? No, not mascara. Can't think of what it is. Whatever the black makeup is that goes around the eyes. Is it mascara? No, that's for the eyelashes, right? Just so much of it around the eyes. It was a scene thing, I think is what it was called. I was super into that. I really dug it. So I think that's a reason why I went with this sort of look for her face. Her werewolfy face. Mr. Jackal in the chat comes back saying that he or they, she, it, that albino jackal that knows how to type on a keyboard is convinced that someone out there is purposely making these dangerous things look like yummy food. Well, I mean, I'd make a... oh, wait, no, that was a dingo. I was going to say, oh, a jackal ate my baby. A real thing that happened in Australia, that dingo eating the baby thing. But that's too insensitive. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bring that up. You'll notice that about a third of the Custodians team have similar faces, I'd say. Mitch has no pupils, big black shadows cast over his, like, sunken eye sockets. Kelly has no pupils. Those are just pure white eyes. Charlie has a little bit of both. And then this just sort of shoots up and out of here. Charlie, I messed it up. I got my sweaty hands all over the ink before it dried properly. I'll wait until the end. That's fine. She is based off of a drawing by Steve Ditko of a werewolf comic that he did for... I used to have it up on my shelf so I could look at it, but I can't remember what it is. But I sort of based her design... because I didn't really... I initially had her being far more dog-like, like an actual, like, you know, like a werewolf, like the ones from Dog Soldiers. But I didn't like that. I thought it was weird. I didn't dig it. I started liking the more human, if you can call this human, looking image of a werewolf. Also similar to a Werewolf by Night from Marvel. And then I discovered that Steve Ditko did that werewolf story, and I was like, oh my god, that's a cool looking design. I'm gonna incorporate some of this. So like the way that these blacks and like sort of shading goes over her face and forehead like that, that was taken from him. Good artists copy, great artists steal everything. And she has, you know, jagged werewolf teeth. And do her collarbones. Have a little lines to designate a neck. Her pecs. And little lines, little bits and bobs there that just sort of signify the fact that she has fur. I think I'll go over. Just do little stuff here with the micron on her face. Don't want to do too much. I'll add a little line to kind of designate that she does have lips. Those lips are feminine because they make a little whoop. The albino jackal is a he, so I can confirm that to any viewers who were wondering. It's a reference to the Halo enemy. I wasn't even thinking about that. Why don't you make your icon a Halo icon, huh, buddy? Huh? Instead of a Lego clone trooper. You know how confusing that is? At least it's not a reference to Miles Warren, the Jackal from Marvel Comics. That's what I was afraid of when, when I saw you said Ditko had an epic style in there. I was like, oh no. Is he going to say that he took his name from the Spider-Man villain who was obsessed with Gwen Stacy to the point that he cloned her and made one of the worst comic stories in Spider-Man history? So, I should have gotten like the pre-drawings that I did, like the early sketches of all these characters. I got them over there somewhere. But, Metalliton, shocking, I know. He can control various metals. Except for one. There's a very specific metal that he cannot control. And that comes into play in the story at a certain point. Don't ask me what the metal is. I can't remember. I don't remember the last time I actually read the script. But, obviously he's, you know, reminiscent of Magneto. It was a character. He's a character I made, like, pretty early on. Probably 6 or 7 years ago. He was an early one that I had an idea for. I just liked the name Metalliton. And I was like, what if Magneto was a good guy? Oh, a big truck outside. Cape. Of course he has a cape. He also has a very garish color scheme. Pretty much all of my superheroes do. I really dig the garish, bold colors. Let's see. I need to make a circle on here, but I can see that it hasn't dried properly yet. I'm going to use an 8-point macaron. A macaron. Eat some macaroons with your macaron pens. And then, of course, he has his classic... Everybody remembers his Metalliton's classic emblem that he has on the clasp holding his cape together. Everybody can draw it. It's a classic image from this old comic. It looks like that. You know. What does it mean? I guess you're just going to have to read every single issue of the Infinitum Brood to find out. And he has some sort of kind of almost Jack Kirby-esque horns on the side of his helmet. And his trademark tuning fork atop his little forehead. Alright, let's move on to redo. What's going on in the chat? Bino Jackal says he was going to draw a Halo Jackal for the icon, but keeps procrastinating. I feel that. User asks, doesn't Miles Warren have a new name since Miles Morales was introduced? I don't think so. For some reason, Albino Jackal comes back saying the metal is unobtainium from... No, the metal that he can't control. Oh, did they really, in the cartoon from 2017, they renamed Miles Warren to Raymond? And he's Gwen's uncle, oh! That has horrible implications. I don't like that. Where'd that? There we go. So this is going to be fucking super simple to draw. These gals don't have much going on for their costumes. Not in that they're like half naked or something. It's just very simple outfits. I would never draw obscene cheesecake to that point. Boom, done. I just gotta draw a couple of things on her face, and then I'm fucking done with her costume. Whoop. There we go. Just gotta do her lips. Lips. Need a 1 micron for that. And draw her little flabellum thingy. A little divot beneath the nose. And there you go. So you draw redo. Now let's draw her sister, the displaced girl. I don't want this one, I want the other one. Here we go. Draw her little things on her costume, collarbones, cleavage line. Boop, boop. Yep. Yep. Eyeballs. The D. And now her lips. There you go. Done. Easy peasy. Now let's get to Osmium Man. Osmium is one of the densest materials known to man. So he's kind of like Colossus, I suppose, if you're looking for an X-Men analog. I don't know why you would look at these characters and think, what are the characters in X-Men that are kind of like them? But if you were, I'd suppose he would be a Colossus-style character. He's a Hispanic young man who can turn his body. Well, he can't turn his body into the material, but he can make his body as dense as osmium. Is the idea behind him. So he's virtually indestructible when, you know, he does that. Or maybe he's always like that. How the fuck did I do his hair? I remember there was a specific way that I was coloring his hair, and now I gotta go to that page that has all the covers on it and hopefully gleam the, What the fuck is it? How did I pass it? Where is that advertisement? Thank God I have this copy with me. Am I just a fucking idiot? Where is it? There we go. Doesn't help at all. It's way too tiny. But I think I'm just gonna have to fucking reinvent it here how I did it. Because I wanted to give him, you know, a lot of... He's based off of... His hair, specifically, is based off of this guy I was friends with for years in school and everything. And he always had sort of like... He had the very curly hair. He was Hispanic. So it was always very curly hair that was like almost in a fro kind of deal. So I wanted to go for something like that just to diversify it up. And now I gotta figure out how to get that across. And I think this is working just fine. You know, these almost like sort of little half-circle arches. If not... Hey, he's only in this comic for this issue. Albino Jackal in the chat says, what are we, some kind of custodians? I do have a line that's very similar to that in the first issue. Where the head of the C.R.O.S.S agency, Crisis Repression Operations and Strategic Surveillance. This scene is also in the trailer that I have for the comic on my channel. Here it is. He says, you know, my sort of version of Nick Fury. The world's made a mess. It's time for the custodians to clean it up. You know, that's more in line with like an 80s like action film, like when the guitar riff would sound after he says that. But yeah, like I was saying, since this is based off of, you know, very heavily inspired by 60s Silver Age comics, there's a lot of like sort of cheesy dialogue like that, like just silly ideas that are just taken seriously by the people in this universe. Because they are serious, like threats that they have to deal with. There's a man in this issue later, named the Bowman or something like that, who has a whole gaggle of trick arrows, and the trick arrow, one of them that he uses, is his trick gun arrow, which is literally just a handgun at the end of an arrow that he shoots. And so he pulls back the bow or the arrow and lets it loose, and then as it flies through the air, it shoots at the people he's trying to kill. And it's like, oh god, he has the gun bow! Or no, I think he says something along the lines of, like, face the might of my trick gun arrow. Just stupid stuff like that. Just ridiculous scenarios for these people to get stuck in as they're trying to save the world. And if you've read the comic on the Patreon or in person, you'll know that they're trying to save a lot more than just the world. They're trying to save themselves. It's the real custodians, the agents of C.R.O.S.S, are the friends that we made along the way. And Osmium Man, he's sort of... I imagine he's kind of younger than the other characters. Like, I think Metalliton probably be the oldest. They're all about 18, but I feel like Osmium Man is probably about 16, or if 15 maybe. He's just really fucking big. He's kind of like Bedrock from Youngblood. Or if he is their age, he's just very immature. You know, he's the classic. You gotta have the big guy on the team. The big guy is either He's the bruiser, he's like Colossus, or he's the immature one. That's the trope. You gotta have it. But he is very immature, as we'll see once I get into the issue, which hopefully I am about to do. And this is going to be fun, because I can't remember exactly how this book begins. I think it's at the school that they reside upon, or reside at, and are trained at. But I'm not sure. Although, after I get done with this page, I am going to have to draw another cover title page. There we go, that's fine. There we have it. The official cover for the Custodians, Agents of C.R.O.S.S, issue number 3. Now I gotta find a place to... Actually, I'm not going to use the Sharpie. I'll use this new pen, because these pens never really work well for signatures, but I'm going to try this one. Where do I sign this at? I guess up here. 24. There we go. Blake T. Wilde, 2024. The Custodians. There they are. The Custodians and some of the Infinitum brood. And here you're about to discover the 5th member of the Infinitum brood. That guy right there. He's called the Star Child. He's a big old head. And yeah, here's what I was talking about, where I said I had a whole splash page that I gotta take care of. Enter the Infinitum Brood, which is a reference to the Avengers X-Men crossover from an early issue of the series in the 60s. I think it was early X-Men, where it's like, enter the Avengers, or something like that. If I remember correctly, which I might not. Okay, I don't want to use this for her. I think I'm going to have to... Because that pen, it's too new. To the point that there's just a little too much ink coming out for me to properly have control over. And I made her arm way too thick because of that. Where's my whiteout? Where the fuck did it go? Did I drop it? Oh, yes I did. There we go. So I'm just gonna thin down the area by her wrist. Gotta draw a woman's arm, make it thin. Unless she's just muscular. If you're drawing a stereotypically comic book female woman, make her petite. Unless you're drawing like Wonder Woman or Big Barda or Empress Evangeline, who's a character similar to those two that is in this comic that appears later. I think a chat popped up, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna look once I finish this leg of hers. And if you're drawing boots or anything like that, I like to add that little divot to the side, or to the back of it, like where the ankle is. And right there. Just to make it like the fabric's folding a little bit, or whatever it is, like the material of the boot. Draw her bags of sand. I think that's what Steve Carell says that breasts feel like in the 40-Year-Old Virgin. And then this little V on her chest, which now that I'm talking about it out loud, goes straight to her crotch. I did not mean for that to happen. I just needed a design, and I was like, what can I do? Real quick. Just something real fast. She has a V going down, and then she has like hip holes and shoulder holes, kind of like Kate Bishop's costume. Just because I really dig that costume. Fuck, what happened to her head? Yeah, that looks fine now. I'll just move her little spiral up a little more. So Redo, the lass that I'm inking right now, she has the power to essentially revert, like, quick save and then revert back to a location. So like later she'll be in a fight with a villain, and if what she tries to, like, she goes for a right hook and it doesn't work, she can revert herself back to her starting position. That was not fun to try and figure out how to convey in a goddamn comic book, I'll tell you that. Mr. Bin there asks, out of curiosity, does this take place in the same universe as Destructo Boy? No, it does not. It takes place in the same omniverse as Destructo Boy, in that it is a comic that I created. There are a couple of references to Destructo Boy here and there. Like, people will be wearing Destructo Boy t-shirts, so seemingly Destructo Boy does exist in this book or in this universe as a comic itself, possibly a highly successful one. But no, this is a separate universe all in its own, Destructo Boy. Although Destructo Boy does share a common character, only one, and I'll show you who that is because it's super inconsequential. So, in Grimlax the Astronite, I think it's this one. Is it this one? I think so. This is like everybody's favorite book. I think it's because of how bright the front is, but it's also like it's the goriest book out of all of these. It might be the scariest too, because it's these horrible zombie, it's almost like a symbiote zombie things attack and kill everybody. It's kind of a depressing thing. But anyway, here is Dyson. Right here. This is a character I came up with. I entered a competition for STEM, whatever that stands for, that sort of incentive for learning. They're like, design a STEM-related character, and you can win money prize. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck STEM is. Really, I didn't have anything to do with some sort of science, technology, education, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, oh, I'll make this character named Dyson. Who, there she is right there. So Dyson is the one character that exists in both the Destructo Boy universe and the Custodians universe. Who is Dyson? Asks the page. Dinah Denson was once the most acclaimed engineer and physicist of the 23rd century. After her solar energy converter was sabotaged, her molecular structure was altered, and she was flung back through time. So to answer your question, no. It is not in the same universe as D-Boy. Destructo Boy. Albino Jackal says, if I drew the She-Hulk, I definitely would give her a six-pack. Although if I drew the She-Hulk, no, it'd definitely be more similar to John Byrne, his version. But I don't think I've ever drawn She-Hulk before. I've never gotten anybody ask me to do that. But yeah, I do prefer. Like, you know, if it's a superhero like that, I do prefer her to be muscular in some way, not just like a fucking supermodel, almost heroin chic style, like cheesecakey-esque thing. Like Frank Cho, for all my grievances I have with him, I just don't think he's very funny when he does that outrage comic and all that shit. He's highly successful, so I can't really say much about that. I do dig his art, and I do like that he actually makes women look a bit more realistic. Like, it's a very stereotypical design. All of his characters pretty much look the same. But it's different. It's something different that you really don't see being drawn for women characters. And then, of course, everybody has to have little shorts, little trunks that go over the costume. I think, is that what I did? Fuck, now I don't know. I don't know if that's actually what he looks like. I can't remember. Yeah, he does have little shorts. It's just, he has these weird, I decided to give him this, like, weird overlayer of, like, I don't know what the fuck it's supposed to be, but it just goes over his leg. Or his legs. It's just an extra thing to draw, pretty much. Maybe it's some kind of metal that's like purple. And then, of course, if you're a superhero, you're either wearing a spandex suit that encompasses your whole fucking body, or you're wearing boots. I don't know if I like that. I don't. I was trying something there with the little foot rim tread bit, but I am not a fan. It makes it look like he's wearing platform shoes like Robert Downey Jr. And now we get to one of my favorite bits of drawing these comics is conveying movement. How do you convey movement in a comic? Well, recently, a lot of people have been doing that, like, jagged line, where they'll draw, like, you know, just the jagged whatevers, like Daniel Warren Johnson has been doing, and everybody just started copying that. Or you'll do what happens a lot in Frank Quitely comics, I've noticed, where the colorist will go in and add a motion blur or a Gaussian blur, some sort of blur in Photoshop to the artwork. Me, I prefer the tried and true method of boop, boop. Oop, that one messed up. Boom! There you go. Now they are moving. And I gotta draw Metalloton's cape, which is like sort of going behind her. Before I forget to draw his head, just draw his little emblem thingy right there. And I think in the chat, Quiet Dignity and Grace says, a continuity check in comics? No way! Yeah, that's the difference between my comics and Marvel Comics, is that I try to keep some sort of continuity going on between what's happening. Fuck me, man. That was a big thing when I was writing these issues, like 3 or 4 years ago, whenever that was, is that I would... Because the way these books work is that it's about 50 to 60 pages per issue. And each issue begins and ends with a bookending the main storyline. So the first, like, 10 or so pages, and then the last... There you go, perfectly, exactly. So these pages and these pages are one story, just two-parter. And then everything in between here are either the fake advertisements that you see me looking at or flipping through, like so, or it's going to be backup pages, which are between 10 to 15 pages each. That was a wreck for a couple of those stories, because I'm writing them like they're just backup stories, just because I don't know how popular this is gonna be, this comic series. I don't know if anybody's actually gonna fucking buy it, so I want to get as much into each issue as humanly possible. And so in doing that, I'm like, I just need to get all of these ideas that I have out into this series. And to do that, I am making it triple the size of a normal comic book. And then I am also doing all these backup stories, like, I can't remember if it's this issue or the next one. It might be this one. But there is a team that is very influenced by X-Force / Youngblood that shows up, and there's like all this time travel going on. And a couple of the other stories take place at like different times, so the Custodians roster is different. Like, they'll have different characters here. In issue 2, they talk about an adventure they went on when Kelly wasn't present, and she was hanging out with like the Teen Titans of this universe, whatever I called them. And so I have to keep going back to all these fucking issues and trying to figure out, like, okay, where in the timeline does this story take place? Oh, it was something. There's a lot of mistakes that were almost made until I had to go back and sort it out myself. Because, God forbid, anybody I know would read this and try to give me some pointers. And yes, that is based on John Hamm, this floating disembodied head. I don't know why I got the idea. This is Professor Rallian, headmaster of the Rallian Institute for Accelerated Learning. And for some reason I thought, I'll just look at a picture of John Hamm and just kind of base him off of that. So, you know, it's not exact, but you can kind of tell it's there. Which I think is the most fun to do for referencing people. So I'm going to draw him real quick. I'm going to Do I like that? Do I like how straight that hairline is? I don't think I do. Oh, this is gonna be rough to try and fucking go back over with the pen. I'm gonna have to hold off on this for a little bit until this properly dries. Actually, I got a little desk fan here because it gets stuffy in here. Just gonna set that right there. Just dry that ink up. Uh-oh, it's drying it too well. It's another issue with these jumbo Presto thingies, is that for some reason if like they dry too fast, then the ink will start bleeding through the fucking whiteout. It's a real pain, but they're so nice to have. These bad boys, a little handheld electric eraser, and the handheld electric sharpener. Unless you're, you use these things. What is this? A Pilot Color Eno 0.7. Great pencils if you're wanting to do blue line. Highly recommend using these. The biggest complaint I have about this blue line graphite, I'll just get into this real quick for anybody interested. This is not the one that came with this. This is a Uni company. This shit is so brittle that comes into this. Like, there's just that little speck that's poking out. If you push slightly too hard, it'll just snap. So I highly recommend trying this Uni mint blue graphite if you're wanting to do blue line stuff. So I'm just going to ink his little beard. I don't like that. A bit too much. It's not that angry. Although he is very ragged. I see there's a couple of questions in the chat. I'll get to those as soon as I finish with Headmaster Rallion. Just checking the side of my hand, making sure I'm not too dirty. That's the bad thing about, penciling in that blue line. It's harder to get off of your hand than, like, regular graphite that's just gray. And it just makes you look sickly if you get too much of it, like, on the side of your hand. It makes you look like you're undergoing frostbite or something. So I find that what works best, some people will put a piece of paper down, like a sticky note or something, extra piece of paper. I find a Kleenex brand tissue works very well. You just fold it up a couple of ways, plop it like so it forms onto your hand like right there, and just slides across gracefully. It's soft enough to where it doesn't start getting like wearing onto the paper. Like if you use an extra sheet of paper and you're pressing down against it, those eyes look fine. Whatever. Then you'll start to like smudging it. That's the word I'm looking for, is smudging the pencil lines. But a Kleenex isn't gonna do that. And that is very nice. Alright, let's figure out how the fuck his hairline works. I think I'm just gonna do this. Yep, that's what's working. There we go. Alright, why is one iris thicker than the other? That's gonna bother me. Just gonna wipe that in. Wait for that to dry. Finish up with his beard. Add some extra lines. Can't tell really what's going on with his mouth. I think his upper lip was hidden by the facial hair is what I'm trying to convey, and that's just going to be his bottom lip. Everybody has lips, and I like to draw them. You can also quote me on that, too. There we go. Rocket Cat, what are the inspirations for my comics? The inspiration for doing the bit I was saying earlier about how it's bookended with the first part and second part of the story, and then mashed inside are the backups. That is taken directly from an old Tower Comics was the company. Thunder Agents. One of my favorite comic book series of all times. One of the best superhero comics. You'll notice a lot of a fair amount of the art, like the designs, poses and stuff like that. Where is it? Like the Neuronaut origin story, like this right here. This pose is taken from an inner cover backup issue, backup story from that series. So that definitely. A lot of pretty much a lot of Silver Age books, 60s comics, specifically DC from the late 50s and into the 60s. I just really. Is that my doorbell? I just really dig that kind of storytelling. I dig that kind of art. Dick Sprang is the one that comes to mind the most, I think. And of course, Mike Allred is a huge inspiration. I absolutely love Mike Allred's art. I love how off it is, I think, is the best way to describe it. Like, it looks fantastic. It's colored to perfection by his wife, Laura. It's just absolutely some of the greatest things I've ever seen. So if you look at it, you can see a lot of Mike Allred influence in how I position people, how I draw the bodies. It's just great cartooning. I really enjoy Mike Allred's work, and I just fell in love with it within the past couple of years, really. And it's just like, this is just perfect. I love this. I love how stilted, I suppose. I think that's a complaint I think I see, is that maybe he's not stilted, but, you know, very staticky. But I love that. I think that looks so cool, because that really gets the point across that this is a comic, and what we are seeing is just fractions of actual events that are happening in these little 2D universes, and they're snapshots of what these characters are experiencing. Mike Allred, Frank Quitely, he was always a big inspiration. Jack Kirby, of course, how can you not? Jack Kirby, especially with just every issue created by Jack Kirby, he would put in as much as he could. He would put in every single new idea he had in every page. There would just be something new to look at that just never came up again in the fucking book. So I really took that to heart in terms of just what I'm going to be showing people in these comics. Can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I suppose I could flip through here and find some stuff like, where is it? Like this crate here we go. This is the perfect one. So this is the first backup animal. In the updated version, it'll have an extra little caption down here that I forgot to put. But this is the 259th century animals rule. So it was inspired by Legion of Superheroes, and then afterward I realized that Grant Morrison pretty much did this also in the DC 1 million. But they show up. Mitch has history with these guys, Mitch the baboon. It's very inspired by like Superboy comics, where the superhero Legion of Superheroes would show up, and he would have to go to the future to help them with whatever. Occasionally Jimmy Olsen would also deal with that. But I was like, oh, let's have the monkey go to the future and have him hang out with a bunch of superhero animals. So they show up. Lucifer Llama, Sirius the Sundog. And, like, here you go. Fucking these weird-ass spaceships show up for no other panel but this. There's the giant Jupiter in the background. Where's the... Just a weird-looking architecture everywhere. The Entroposphere. This bad boy right here. That's just this giant, colorful ray gun that Nuclear Head's going to use to destroy half the world. I think that's the only panel that shows up. I don't even know what else there is. All of this. So I just, I wanted to get as much in here as I possibly could, just to make it as entertaining, just put so many ideas into it. That was heavily inspired by Jack Kirby. and how he worked. It helps that I've been working on this since like 2015, 2016. So I have just tons of old notes and story ideas and characters and teams to come from. Another huge inspiration, especially recently now that I'm getting close to finishing this book, is Erik Larson. I love Erik Larson. I really want to try and interview him because it seems really easy to do. Just fucking everybody's interviewing him. Channels that are way smaller than mine are interviewing him, and they're all asking the same goddamn questions. I think I have watched and listened to every single Erik Larson interview there is available in the past week and a half, 2 weeks. And really want to talk to him because I just think he is a genuine cartoonist in the modern day. He captures that Jack Kirby feel and idea of just creating comics purely and just new ideas and just doing what he wants, really. And I just really dig that. Steve Ditko, of course, like Mr. Bin there says, your style has a Steve Ditko meets Mike Allred vibe to it. Thank you very much. I love Ditko's just off-putting humans. Like, that's another thing. That's an issue I have with a lot of modern comics. I will get to your question after this, Tactical J, I promise. Is that why has... In the 60s and the 70s, they would have... Comic companies, DC, Marvel, would have house styles, which is like, oh wait, let's get everybody to try and draw like this guy does. Because people like it and it works and it makes us money, so everybody try and draw like John Romita Jr., everybody try and draw fucking, I don't know, who else. But then that kind of went away in the 80s, and it was sort of present in the 90s when they were like, oh my god, they left, those guys left and made their own comic company and they made us so much money. Copy his art style! And I don't know how official it really was in the 90s, because I wish I could remember his name. That like really anime-influenced artist that would draw like the giant feet that did the Age of Apocalypse stuff. He sort of became like the house style for a couple years until the early 2000s. But eventually, with the turn of the millennia, whatever, the art style, the unofficial house art style for both companies has become photorealistic. And based on the discussions I see online from just sort of the common basis of fans that are vocal enough to talk about it online, if it's not photorealistic, in their minds that just means that it's not good and that it doesn't look good. It's like, you can have a style as long as that style is trying to be Alex Ross. But that is so boring. Why would you want your comic books to look photorealistic? It works for, like, Brian Hitch. It works for Brian Bolland. I'll say that. It works for what they tried to do in the early 2000s with the fellas at the Ultimate Universe. But, like, why would you ever want your comics to look like something you have to experience every day of your life? Like, I can see realistic. I can just look around. I can go to my window and see photorealistic everything. Why do I want my superheroes, my crazy superheroes wearing primary colored jumpsuits, to look realistic? John Romita Jr., that's another big art influence on me. I love his art style. Speaking of modern stuff, coloring for his work does not function properly if it's a modern colorist. They add too many gradients to his line work, and it just looks terrible. I think that's the same issue I have with Rob Liefeld's art, because I always dug Rob Liefeld's art. It's just, for some reason, they've decided, let's not make it kind of flat coloring, or, you know, flat coloring with extra hues here and there. But it just doesn't work. Too many gradients. Tactical J, finally getting to his question. Hey, Smokey, what do you enjoy doing the most, inking or coloring? Now that is a good question. And I think probably coloring, because it goes quicker. Because I color everything in Photoshop digitally, so that makes it far easier to get done. I'm not having to do this where I have to switch what pen and marker I'm using. And it's just a lot of fun um, to try and just come up with color combinations, because I found years ago online a DC Comics like color guide, like the 64 something odd colors that they used for their printing, and that's all that I use for my comics. Like I'll deviate here and there depending on, like, it's usually for skin tone is when I'll have to deviate from that, just because old comic skin tones were not great, so I'll have to adjust some stuff here and there. But just trying to figure out combinations that work with these same couple colors is just a lot of fun. And then just playing with like this style of coloring where it's, you know, emulating that old comic book design is just, it's a lot of fun. So I'm gonna say I definitely prefer coloring, and it like I said, it just goes quicker. Like that video I posted the other day on my channel of coloring the cover of issue 2, that was about 20 minutes in total. I'm getting sort of a what is the art where God is reaching out to like Adam or something, you know, their hands are like almost touching. We're getting that kind of where they're both reaching for the Star Child. Let's see. Rocket Cat asks if I could do a crossover, who would it be with? I think I'm gonna say Eric Larson and Savage Dragon. In the interviews, he has said multiple times, because it's come up, or I've just been re-listening to the same interviews, which I have been doing, I just didn't realize it. He says that if you have a published comic at Image, he will let you use Savage Dragon if you, like, ask him to. He's just like, yeah, fuck it, I don't care, just use it. You're here at Image. That is my goddamn goal, is to get a comic series published at Image so I can have a crossover with the Savage Dragon. I have an idea in mind for a project that I want to do after this, and it involves a character that shows up in the last issue of the series, so I'm not going to talk about it just yet, but I really hope that that character is popular enough and people dig him enough to warrant a little series. That I want to make it a monthly comic. I want to take, assuming that it does work out, my plan is to follow the Michel Fife route. Michel Fife, fantastic artist, great stuff. He created Copra, which is a monthly independent comic that's been coming out since about 2012. He does it all himself, and he's somehow able to publish it each month. Also another, you know, influence or inspiration inspired by Eric Larson. But if I can fucking do 6 issues that are about 50 to 60 pages of this, my god, imagine how easy it's going to be for me to do 20 pages of a book each month. God almighty. The backup stories alone in these issues are a full comic unto themselves. But I want to do that. And hopefully, down the road, it'll become popular enough that Image will pick it up, and I'll finally be able to put Savage Dragon into it. Also, I feel like that's probably the most realistic option, really. Let's see. Thank you, Rocket Cat, who says I really nail that old comics feel. It took me a while to get it down, but I've finally gotten there. I'm really jiving with it. He also says, I feel photorealism will work better with a crime noir. Yeah, photorealism really works well with crime noir. What's his name? Where is it? Alex Maleev. I had to lean over and move some stuff to see the Daredevil omnibuses that I have of Bendis's Daredevil. Alex Maleev, he does photorealistic, but he does it in such a way that it works so well. It's still very stylized in his own, but yeah, that's a really great example, I think, of doing photoreal. He has a muscle there, sure. Let's see. Tactical J, ever since I learned about flats from the internet, I enjoy coloring now. Yeah, I assume you mean Tactical J by doing, like, I assume just the flat colors over top or underneath, and then continuing to color in various ways on top. I never really got into that. I really just stop at the flat coloring. Like, the furthest I go for coloring is I'll add a black layer that just has a black layer that's just like at 15% opacity, just to make shadows. And if you ever see original art from comic creators that have little X's everywhere like so, that is to designate what is going to be filled in with black. So it's just a lot easier. It's usually to the inker, so they know where to just fill in with black, just to make the penciler's job a bit easier. For me, I'm the same person, so it's to remind me where to put the blacks. This pen, does this have any ink in it still? Doesn't seem like it. Let's see, do I have another one? I think I do somewhere, I just don't know where the hell it is. It's probably in this bag. This mess of a bag. Ah, here it is. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. So this is a little brush that I just picked up. It works pretty much the exact same as that other brush. I thought it would be some sort of difference. But I think Mike Allred says that he uses this brand, which is why I picked it up. I wanted to try it out. But I am not courageous enough to properly ink my actual figures with it. So instead, I just use the brushes to fill in areas of big black spots. And I don't know why I use this instead of the big-ass chunky marker that I have, but oh well. Just put the fan on there while I take a glass of water. Albino Jackal says, I agree with photorealism being bland. Luckily, we still got Humberto Ramos holding down the fort. Yeah, what's he been up to? I feel like I haven't seen Ramos do anything in quite a while. I guess I just don't really follow him that much. But, like, we'll still get non-photorealistic art. It's just, it's usually on the books that nobody reads, so they aren't well circulated. Mr. Bin there asks, what program do I use to color? I just use Photoshop. That's what I've always done. I know, like, Clip Studio, I think, is a thing. But I don't know if that's only for just the inking and, like, drawing aspect, or if it also involves coloring. But I use Photoshop. Ah, fuck, I forgot to do his hair. I also can't remember if these stripes he has running down his suit are supposed to be filled in color or filled in black. So let's consult the tiny page. They're in black. That fucking, that advertisement page is coming in way more handy than I thought it would. And here's a little fun thing you can do. If you're drawing clothes, boots, anything that has wrinkles in it, and you're doing a full line or some sort of color, deviate it up. Don't make them line up. So there's that little right there. And then I'm going to fill in this little section. I'm going to move it over just a tad bit. You know, it just adds a little bit to it. Maybe I'll accentuate the crinkles in his boot. I gotta do his hair. That's right. Essentially just doing a Kirby Crackle, but for his hair. Oof, this is... I'm feeling it in my wrist. Trying to sharpen off that little weird jaw because it was making his head look way too weird. I think that looks fine. Who am I going to now? Let's do Kelly. Let's Inker Fire. You know, fire, super fucking easy to draw. Especially if you're doing it old school style like this. You can just shake your hand across the page and boom, there you go. You have a roaring flame. And some little extra nobbles right there. Boom. Got yourself a fire. And she has a large coat, which means wrinkles. I couldn't figure out what I was looking at on the pencils. But that is her arm going down, and then she has her left hand like planted on the floor. So that's all you need to do for that. And going back to Steve Ditko, her costume is inspired by the Shockers. His old quilted outfit, especially when I, like years ago when I was trying to start it out and drawing these characters, I drew it very similar to how Steve Ditko did it. So like each sort of quilted square would have like that shading mark on one side that he would always do. But now, once I actually got to drawing her, I just said, fuck that, that's too much work. Oh, a neck. So, Lachlan Gibson asks, have I ever thought about doing a video on the long Halloween? Yeah, I have. I would probably be doing it in October. I might this year. I might just make it like a Batman-themed Halloween. Maybe do some spooky Batman stuff. Do Batman the Cult, which I've been meaning to do for years. Long Halloween. It's another spooky Batman one. That just looks so fucking weird. I did not really think that through. Oh well. Live and let live. Boop, 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 boop. You're making comics, baby. You can't... Fuck, how's this gonna work? how's her quilt pattern going? Jesus Christ. Okay, I'll do this leg first. Okay. And then they come in from over. Sure. It's just very stretched out quilt fabric. Her little bodysuit thingy. Oh god. Yeah, there you go. That's what it looks like when she's in that position. What do you want from me? Hey, don't get mad at me. Get mad at the penciler. Let's see. Rocket Cat. Would I ever consider doing a series on the Shade the Changing Man comics? Seemingly, I assume you're talking about the originals, the Ditko ones. I would need to read them completely. I've only read like a couple issues here and there that I've gotten. I'd like to. I dig the parts that I've read from it. I don't know how well it would do as a video, but that's never stopped me before. But yeah, I should really get more Ditko done. Maybe do some Mr. A comics while I'm at it. Lachlan, I've never really read my comics, your comics, but I love your style. Might pick one up soon. Thank you. Yeah, the Destructo Boy comics that are still available, it's a very different style. I was going through a phase where I was really into R. Crumb, the underground comic creator from the 60s and 70s. So it's very heavily influenced by that sort of cartoon. It's all super cross-hatchy lines. It was also early on. Like, that was years ago now. That was about 5 years ago, I think, when I did that. So having drawn for the past year and a half every single day for about 6 to 8 hours at a time, my art style's gotten better, thank God. But when I went and did the 5 issues, because Destructo Boy, it started off, a contest was held by a local print shop in my hometown. And they were like, come on in, we're going to be handy. We have like 10, 15 giant 60-page blank booklets, and it's a storyteller competition. It's the first year they ever tried it. And it was like, okay, well, come and get these pages, or these booklets, make a story. Whoever wins will publish the book and print it up and sell it in in print runs of 25, with a total of 50. And you get all the proceeds. You retain the copyright to everything, blah, blah, blah. And so I went in the day they announced it after work, and I was the first person to pick it up and the first person to turn it in, which I thought I was going to be late doing because I turned it in the day right before the cutoff. But one of those comics, I'll go grab it right now, actually. I think it's nearby somewhere. Ugh, I'm dropping my bag of pens. Ugh. So here it is. This is, of course, the printed version. The original pages are in my closet. Destructo Boy and Other Exciting Tales. On the back, there's this weird antelope man sitting at a bus stop, which is in 1.5 miles, so I don't know what the fuck this bench is. I guess the rest stop to get to the bus stop. Yeah, 2020 is when I was drawing this. This is, I think, 40 total pages of comics. All, giant, just one page is a panel is what I did, because I was like, I really want to get this done, but if I do too much, I'm not going to have enough time to do actual panels. So this is where Destructo Boy originated. If I need to post this on my Patreon, these pages. This is the first ever Destructo Boy comic. As you can see how rough everything is. I did all of this in under a month because they just did not plan out the contest very well. And they're like, okay, come on in. You got a month to make a story. And so I was like, fuck that. I'm going to make 3 stories. So there are 2 15-page stories, Destructo Boy and this one with Supremacy, which have, this is like an alternate reality. Funnily enough, all these heroes appear in varying points of the Custodians. So this is another sort of universe that ties into it. This is a post-apocalyptic superhero story, sort of Mad Max style. Hey, look, the Displaced Man. So I was doing that for quite a while. All these characters. And then the last one, I was running out of time, so I was like, oh, I gotta do something different. So I just did very crazy, heavily sketched out, real rough shit about this story of these guys in the 70s investigating a small French village where during World War II, the soldiers said that there was a vampire living under, like a vampire clan living under the town. Of course, they don't find anything, but they don't go far enough into the cave to find the last living vampire. And then just the credits at the very end. But yeah, that is the first comic I ever got published. And with that, I then did all 5 issues of the Custodians about a year and a half later, because, or not the Custodians, Destructo Boy. Destructo Boy was the standout star. Everybody dug him, probably because his name was on the cover and he's on the cover. And it's the most fun of the stories. It's the most open story that most people can get into. It's not very esoteric. But yeah, anyway, I really need to get this done or no, I need to get issue 2 done. Well, I do need to get this done. But like I said earlier in the stream, my plan is to get issue 2 done and ready, post it on the Patreon for people to view, and then start doing print runs of issue 1, and then I can get issue 2 the next month, issue 3 the next month, so on and so forth, for a grand total of 6 months. I think somewhere I have a document laid out of how I'm going to plan that. I want to do... I started talking about Michel Fife earlier. Similar to what he did maybe on Copra, which is where, like, sort of a pre-order for the books. Like, if you already purchased the first issue, then I'll have, like, a cheaper option available to where you can pre-order just the 5. If you want to pre-order all 6, you can. You know, something laid out like that. Just some sort of incentive to try and get people interested. And, of course, I'll do every purchase comes with a free sketch, which is what I do for all my comics, in person or online. Whenever you purchase a comic, I include a free head sketch of any character you're choosing. I really hope that's what he looked like. Fuck me, man. Did I make it that thick in the drawing? Don't know why I don't just leave a bookmark in this page. No, I did not. Now it just looks like he has a goddamn unibrow. Eh, whatever. I'll have to just fix it in the coloring. Or he just looks like this for that page. Hey, how many old comics have you read where the characters look a little different on the pages? You know, it's because, like how when Jack Kirby was drawing, when Steve Ditko was drawing the Hulk, he wasn't sure how many toes he had. Whoever the artist was in the 60s that did this old comic issue, they didn't know what Star Child's head looked like. That's the excuse. Those damn comic book artists trying to get fair wages. Let's see. Jordan Hyland just laughs. Rocket Cat says it oozes personality and style. For just 1 month, you really went ham on it. Oh, yeah! Yeah, it was insane. And, yeah, the Destructo Boy and Other Exciting Tales. Yeah, that was, like I said, 40 pages in under a month, I should note. It was like less than a month, based on when I got the paper, when they announced it, and when they did the drawing, the closing of it, the last day to turn it in. So it was just under a month. I did 40 pages like that. Very quick, very rough, very rudimentary, I suppose. I worked on it every day. Just like how I've been working on the Custodians every day. Which is why I think that if I do create that comic series about that hereunto unmentioned character, and make it a monthly series that is only about 20 pages, like a normal comic a normal person would make, I think I could do that a lot easier with my experience. I kind of am doing the whole comic book thing backwards, in that I started off with a lot, and I'm going to just work my way back. Like, the first comic I really made, which is unpublished, I never finished it. I finished all the pages. I never finished lettering it. It was odd. It was a id comic in the Freudian language. It was just a stream of conscious book called A Dead Fish in the Grass. I brought it up a lot in my old videos. I have a little snippet of the beginning on my channel that you can check out. That was a 166-page graphic novel that I did and drew out completely. Although I did not draw it this size, I drew it on a page that was even smaller than this comic. Maybe about, like, that big in terms of where my hand is. Because I liked how it looked when I drew it really small and then blew it up. It just looked real grainy and gross. And it was a very similar art style to what you saw in that first Destructo Boy book, because it was before that. Can't remember where I was going with that. That was something. Oh yeah, that was just that's how I started my unofficial comics career. I was making a 166-page horror, weird psychoanalysis Western comic that no one has read other than me. My wife refuses to read it based on what happens in that fucking story. It's so gross and just weird. I don't blame her. And I didn't want that to be my first, like, self-published book either. Oh, fuck me, man. I messed up. A lot of baboons, they have this little flap of skin on the front of their chest that's bright red, and I'm just going over that with blacks. But yeah, I didn't want A Dead Fish in the Grass to be my first self-published book, because then I'd be known as the guy who made a Western comic where a man fantasizes about a reverse mermaid and fucks it in his nightmares. Because that's what was happening throughout the book. You can get a lot out of that. If I ever publish it, I'm sure someone could fucking make a whole college class about what the true meaning of that book is. Because I didn't go into it with any, like, okay, this is like what I'm gonna make it out to be. It's a commentary on homoeroticism in the Western 1800s. It's about the persecution of Native Americans. It's about a failing marriage. It's about fucking mental illness. Like, there's so much shit that I noticed after I had finished it. I was like, what the fuck is this? Oh, it was nuts, man. It's a nuts book. That's why I called it an id comic. Let's see. Rocket Cat, been binging my videos, and the dead fish one really looks interesting. Oh, it's interesting, alright. It's interesting. He also says, Rocket Cat, you're a he, right? I don't want to misgender you, I guess? I don't fucking know. I am one of the few comic YouTubers whose videos Rocket Cat can watch over and over again. I've watched the Sandman and Batman Vampire videos at least 5 or 6 times. Thank you very much. Don't keep watching that Batman Vampire, because the ad revenue doesn't go to me. I was a fool who used, I think, the music from The Mist, maybe, at the end, and I didn't use it well enough to hide it from the YouTube copyright censors. So the ad revenue goes to them. But yeah, thank you. I was always happy with how that one came out. That's one of my favorites that I've done. Who do I got left? I just got Charlie left. And something you'll notice is that the main characters, aside from like Neuronaut, who just kind of looks like a normal dude, they're all more abstractions than you would expect to see. Like Mitch. Right here, Mitch the Galata baboon. He's a baboon. I had somebody look at the inked pages and be like, is that an alien? I'm like, no, you fool. Clearly it's a baboon. But the reason that I made Mitch just almost an amorphous blob of black with like hands and feet and a face and like the occasional like a highlight on top of his head, I was kind of inspired by Hellboy, because if you look at Hellboy, most of his supporting cast of characters, they're kind of just like normal people. Like they're clearly in the style of Mike Mignola, so they have that tinge to it, but they still just look like regular people. But then you get to like Abe Sapien and Hellboy, who, yes, Abe Sapien is a fish man, and Hellboy is the literal son of a huge demon. But they still look like people for the most part. But they're more abstract. They're more cartoony in terms of their designs when compared to everyone else. So, like, Charlie, her fur, she's the only one that looks like that. If another werewolf showed up, I might draw it the same way, but she's the only werewolf in this story. Mitch, that's why he has the giant underbite lip. It's because I was kind of inspired by Hellboy, who has a similar feature. That's why Kelly has her disobeying the laws of any reality hair and eyeballs. And then Neuronaut and everybody else that they sort of interact with, just kind of normal people. Thank you, Albino Jackal, for enjoying the Vampire Batman. That was a really fun one to do, like I said. I really enjoyed doing the Joker voice. especially that version of Joker. Every time I do the same character, I try, like, if it's clearly not in the same like comic universe, I'll try and do something a little different with it. So like the Joker in the Brian Azzarello's Joker, that video, you know, I made him more gruff, hopefully, and a little closer, I guess, like Heath Ledger sort of impression. With the Batman Vampire one, I wanted to do like fairly, you know, a Mark Hamill impression, but make it a little more gruff. like grosser, like, because that's a very gross Joker. He's like living in the sewers with vampires and stuff. So that's always fun. And then of course, if I do a main Joker that I'm just doing Mark Hamill's impression, like in the Crisis on Infinite Earths video, which I need to make the technical follow-up to, because that I claim as my favorite DC event. I need to do my favorite Marvel event, which coincidentally is also a multiverse-shattering story in Brian what? The fuck's his name? Who did Secret Wars 2015? Hickman. What the fuck is his first name? Ross, Alexander, Ronald, John Hickman. Is it John Hickman, or did I just come up with that? What is his name? I can't fucking think. I've barely eaten anything today. I got home from work and I just immediately sat down and started doing this. Jonathan Hickman. Yeah, that's right. That's his name, right? You think when Jonathan Hickman was a kid, people called him Johnny Hickman? Let's see. Rocket Cat, the video that followed the Joker lackey trying to make it big. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm always happy with that one. That was, I feel, one of, like, that was when I really started getting into sort of making them kind of like a motion comic in a way, I suppose, like making it more like story focused rather than just having me recap what's happening. Fun fact, a lot of people bring up how similar my channel is to ComicsTorian. I've never watched a ComicsTorian video aside from like a couple here and there. I used to like his podcast that he did with Rob from Comics Explained, but then they stopped doing that and I didn't care for anything else. But I didn't watch any ComicsTorian videos until well after I had started my YouTube channel. I actually ripped off Mr. Sunday Movies, who also covered the first issue of Star Wars Infinities, and I was like, that's really cool, and I've had the idea to start a YouTube channel about comics because I was inspired by Comic Pop. I'm going to just do that. So that's why my first couple videos are Star Wars Infinities, and they came out within like probably a year or two of that Mr. Sunday Movies one. Albino Jackal, my Marvel Zombies video is epic too and really gross in a good way. Oh, those are my favorite. I love doing Marvel Zombies because I just get to fucking make those super gross noises and just make people uncomfortable who watch it. A lot of the stuff that I do in the videos, it usually ends up being for my entertainment. Or just what I think is funny or cool. Which, you know, maybe that's why I'm sitting at a little under 50,000 subscribers 7 years after doing this. ComicsTorian is okay, but your voice acting is better. You make me laugh, says Tactical J. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've always been into the voices. That was a big thing about the Joker video that I got. Was like, oh my god, it's way better than ComicsTorian's Joker voice. And so that's like one of the few ComicsTorian. I don't have anything against ComicsTorian. I'll say that right now. I just never knew about his channel, and I never had any real interest in it. Especially after I started the YouTube channel, because I didn't want to be like too influenced by it. Yeah, his Joker voice for that Joker Azzarello story, it didn't fit. I'll agree with some people commenting on there. It did not fit with what the story was telling. He was doing like a classic Clown Prince of Crime voice for what is essentially a Martin Scorsese crime film. But yeah, I've always liked doing voices. I remember as a kid, I have a very vivid memory for some reason of being a child in like first grade or kindergarten or no, maybe it was first grade. I was doing homework, and I think it was like Halloween or some shit, or maybe not. Maybe I just wanted. It was close to Halloween in my mind. I'm mixing up memories, and I just really wanted to get done with the homework. So to make it more bearable with whatever it was I was doing, I just started talking in like a Scottish accent or whatever I could get close enough to a Scottish accent. Oh, that was awful. That was terrible. I got to talk like this a little bit. I got to do Grant Morrison. Oh, hello there. I'm Grant Morrison. I'm here to tell you about the fascinating views of comic books. Not great. Usually when I'm doing voices, I'll have to like look up something that'll be similar to it on YouTube and then just kind of repeat. That's what I did a lot as a kid, is that I would watch stuff and I would just like kind of repeat it, almost like a parrot boy. But yeah, I've always had fun doing funny voices like that. Funny voices, he says, after doing the impression of an accent for an entire country of people. What a funny voice! Rocket Cat. The moments you break character are the best. Your videos have so much soul. Nothing against comic story comics explained, but Smokey Spins just hit different. Thank you. Yeah, those are always tough because I gotta figure out, like, okay, when do I have, like, if I break character while I'm recording it, like, when do I add that into the video? There's a couple of them where I'll add the breaks at the very end. Like, I think, I can't remember which ones. Now that I'm talking about it. J. Jonah Jameson usually makes me cough, so I'll add those in every once in a while. Get me photos of Spider-Man! Hugger! Ooh, that was a big nostril. Oy vey, we are reaching 2 hours and I've gotten 2 pages done. I was hoping to get more than that. I kept getting distracted. But I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try and do 4 pages. See how long that takes. Because then after this, I got to record and work on some videos, and then I got to also find the time to work on coloring the pages for issue 2. Oh yeah, I cough a shit ton when I do the Venom voice, Tactical J. It's because I don't have a naturally deep voice. I'm like Charlie Day if he wasn't as successful and did fucking YouTube videos about comics. There we go. Oh my god, my wrist. Oh, all the bones in my back shattered. There we go. Yeah, the Venom voice is very similar to my Hulk voice or my Darkseid voice, which is also my Dr. Claw voice from Inspector Gadget, or aka Megatron.
Megatron, I shall destroy you, Optimus Prime.
Or alternatively,
I shall destroy you, Spider-Man.
it tickles my throat. So here we are. First page, first technical page that actually has panels that isn't just the title. Rallian School, Institute of Accelerated Learning. We got some weird looking characters over here with strange faces. We got this, which I like, which is a poster for the sports team, Rallian's Ruffians. Some sort of basketball team with a crystal person on it. And then Dr. Rallian himself, Neuronaut, was a former student of his. Alright, this all should be pretty fucking easy. I'm just doing trees. So that should go by very quick. It's the building that I'm kind of worried about. Albino Jackal, I find it odd that Marvel's Wonder Woman is basically Black Widow, the character that's typically portrayed as untrustworthy and sometimes a traitor. Yeah, the most popular, like, woman in the Marvel Universe, specifically the MCU, for, what, 10 years, 15 years, was the spy who kills people and betrays their trust. Never thought about that. I think... Marvel should 100% push the Wasp. I love Wasp. I love Janet Van Dyne so much. She is the best, especially in Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I had such a crush on her in that show when I was a kid watching it. Surprisingly, here's a shocking fact. I'm really not that old as I make myself out to be. Although people do say I act like a grandpa. Everybody says that. My friends, my family, my wife says that I'm very grandpa-like in how I act. But, yeah, they should fucking... That Wasp series was fantastic. At least the 2 issues that I read from, the fuck's his name? Al Ewing. Al Ewing is a godsend, I think, to Marvel. Oh, Christ, my neck. He's just... He reminds me of Mark Grunwald in a way, because he just cares so much about the comics and the characters and the universe itself and their history. He seems so pure. Oh god, I hope nothing bad comes out about him, like tomorrow or something. Alright, what am I doing here? I'm trying to make sense of these pencils that I did over a year ago. So it's just a bunch of mountains. And then I think these are supposed to be trees, so I'm going to flip it over. And I'm just going to do this, just to make it look like there's just the treetops against the shadowy black mountain. I think that this school is located in the Colorado Mountains, the Rocky Mountains, I want to say, if I remember correctly, from, you know, this script that I wrote. I think that's where this is taking place at, this scenario. Yeah, the whole story, if you do get the chance to read The Custodians, either on my Patreon or in person, once I get it back on sale, the first issue really doesn't have much to the overarching storyline, except for, like, the last couple pages. Everything else is mostly setup and introduction to the characters themselves. But issue 2 is when shit just starts going pretty full throttle. You learn a lot in issue 2. And then in issue 3, I'll recant my statement. Issue 2 is when you learn what the real deal is of the series. And then issue 2, that's what I said, right? Issue 2. And then issue 3 is when stuff starts really revving up. Like, there's this big mystery that they're trying to figure out. Something that's apparently worried certain supervillains so much that they defeat in issue 2. And he tells them about that. He tells Neuronaut about it. He's like, read my mind. You can see that I'm telling the truth. I'm not lying. About this dangerous threat to our existence. And so they go to Dr. Rallian's School for Accelerated Learning to get some answers. And they get way more answers than they had ever expected. A lot of shit that goes down. And of course, there's also the official Custodians soundtrack. The first is available. That's a fun thing I should talk about. Is the Custodians soundtrack. I'll try and post it into the chat for you guys to listen to. If I can find it. Let's see. Luckily, I have my Spotify open. Aha, here we go. Share. Copy link to playlist. So if you're looking for something to listen to later, here's the official Custodians Spotify playlist. I don't know if YouTube will get mad at me for posting this, but here we go. That work? Yep, there we go. And that should take you to the Custodians, Agents of Cross #1 official playlist of the Custodians by myself. And those, 8 songs are how I imagine if this was a TV show, if this was adapted into a television show and they did this exact story, those are the songs that I imagine would be playing at different periods of time throughout the episode. And the fun thing is that if you have the comic, my table, and you look right here at the inner front cover, recommended record riot is the advertisement, and it says, listen to these hot smash songs. And down here, there's the list of all 8 songs, color-coded. There's also a bunch of, a fake coupon that you can cut out that doesn't go anywhere, so don't try it. But these songs are color-coded, so if you look right here, Kick Down the Walls by Wrathchild, right up here, there's a blue square. This was apparently used... this is in a lot of old comics. You'll see these full-color squares. Those were used essentially to help the stores figure out when they should take books off the shelves for when new ones come in. Oh, get rid of your green or your blue books now, something like that. But then we get to number 2. Oh, look at that. There's a green square right there. So you follow along and you'll see throughout the story the different points of when the songs should be playing. Name another comic that fucking puts that that much effort into something people probably won't notice. Also, I forgot how fucking big this school is. Jesus. Those little specks right there, those are people. Those are giant trees. Maybe they're in the redwood forest, even though that's not what redwoods look like. It's a comic book universe. I'm sure they had some sort of weird plant-based person at the school who just made some giant fucking trees. Just do a quick path, I suppose. Doesn't really have to look great. I'll just add the little people. Like Bob Ross, if he was far more abrasive. Alright, let's draw this Institute for Accelerated Learning. And I don't think I'm going to bother with a ruler, he says after he already started drawing without one. Oops. That's why you use a ruler. I don't know what those are. It's just weird shapes. There's supposed to be something, I guess. I don't remember. Let's go here. Makes it go by faster if you make sound effects. I learned that from watching Todd McFarlane's art videos that he would do occasionally many years ago. Around the same time that I actually started work on the Custodians, at least the initial drafts and ideas of it, he was doing a lot of like art-based videos. I don't know if these are supposed to be windows or not. I don't know what the fuck those were. I think they are windows, based on the lines, the diagonal lines in pencil I'm seeing. I think I'm going to finish this panel and then I'll call it a day. I don't know if I'm going to get... At the rate I'm going, it's going to take me a minute. And I am very hungry. And like I said earlier, I got to finish get other stuff worked on. Oy vey, what are these lines? That is a roof. That's the fun part. Is that it's been so long, these pages have been sitting next to my desk, that I don't really remember what's going on, so it's like an adventure. It's like I'm seeing the comic for the first time. God bless these Micron pens. I don't know what that is. It's something that'll probably be colored a solid color. There we go. I had a little bit of dots here and there. Grass dots. I don't know. Oh, and then this... I think that's supposed to be all black too, this mountain. Cloud. There we go. There's that panel for page 2 of 50-something. Oh boy. Thank you all for tuning in, showing up. I'll bring out the pages that I got done today. I don't know when I'll live stream this next. Thank you again for showing up. Thanks for the lively conversation. This was a lot of fun. I don't really have much else to say. Check out my Patreon, of course, if you want to read the first issue for as little as $3, as well as all access to early videos when available, original art, my other comics, Patreon exclusive videos, stuff like that. Check out my Etsy shop. Stay tuned there, because I will be getting the first issue reprinted very soon. And yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Rocky Cat. Thank you, Tactical J. Thank you, Albino Jackal. I can't remember if there was anybody else who really was speaking. Oh yeah, Mr. Been There. And Quiet Dignity and Grace. Thank you all. Thank you all for showing up. But I'll catch you on the flip side, Cracker Jacks. And I will see you